Cause I'm in the stars tonight. So watch me bring the fire and set the night light.
Midnight shadows, we're finding love is a battle, but daylight is so close. So don't you worry about a thing. We're gonna be
What are you gonna do when the world don't open around you? So what are you gonna do when nobody wants to fool with you?
I'm ready, rain on me. Please don't love. Rain on me, rain, rain, rain on me, rain, rain. I wanna be jumped on. Please don't love. Rain on me, rain, rain.
Whoa, I came to move. Get out the way of me and my crew. I'm in the club, so I'm gonna do. Just what the folk came here to do. Yeah. I'm too hot. Call the police and the fireman. I'm too hot. Make a dragon wanna retire, man. I'm too hot. On and on. And it goes on and on and on. It's always a good time. It's always a good time. I wanna celebrate and live my life. Say it, tell me it's a good time. Uptown funk you up. Uptown funk you up. Uptown funk you up. I said uptown funk you up. Uptown funk you up. Uptown funk you up. Uptown funk you up.
I'll be your galaxy. I'm
about to fly.
rain on me, tsunami. I'll be your galaxy.
just friends. Low.
Hey guys, welcome back to Datacom lecture on a Saturday. So happy that you choose to join me today. I know Saturday you have so many things to do. Normally I don't wake up so early also, but you choose to join me. I know voluntary, nobody force you, but you still here. So I'm so happy today. That's why I want to show you one of my secret cooking history. So today we start with your cooking class first. Can you hear me? Everything nice? Okay, first I want to show you my grandma recipe on how to cook red bean soup. Look at this thing. In this container I got 2 types of beans, but today I want to cook red bean soup for my lunch later. So when the time, this one will take 2 hours to cook. By the time I finish this stream, my red bean soup will be ready. Okay, but the problem is, you see now I got green bean and red bean mixed together. So how the first step to cook this is I have to separate them out one by one. So I take all the red bean, then I do separate them one by one. And this process will take me about 2 hours. So I see you back in 2 hours. Okay, no, just kidding. So you see this process here, when I'm cooking, I don't know why they buy bean like that. Just buy red bean and green bean separate. Now I have to separate them because I don't like green bean. Green is not a good color. But I'm still wearing a green shirt. Okay, now this, when you're cooking, this is called filtering. Why I show you my grandma recipe is because today in our class we also want to do this, but not on bean, on network packet. So why we want to do something like this? Why we want to separate network packet? Okay, now network packet need to separate because like red bean and green bean, they also got good packet and bad packet. Okay, just cook them together. Yes, this is a magic bean. I think I know what you mean. Camera shaking? Serious? No. Should I run? Got shake meh? This is 1 FPS, 2 FPS, 30 FPS, 60 FPS. Okay or not? Still shaking? Is it still shaking? Now still shaking? Stanley, don't say that. Now okay or not? I see okay ma. Why like everything want to go wrong together? Now okay, right? Okay. Stanley, you knew too much. Okay, so today what we want to separate is packets. Let me give you some overview first, some brief story on why we want to do something like this. Okay, now in the network, what, like I said earlier, you cannot trust anyone on network. Okay, this is not a security class. These people is so active on Saturday. Alright, but what we are learning today is somewhat skewing towards network security. So when we learn about network, there are two things. First is how to build network. Okay, once we have network, how to protect our network. Now, which is why from week 1 until week 8, including week 8, what we have been learning so far is about routers, switches, cables, IP address, all these things, so that we can build network. Okay, now but after we finish building a network, the next thing we want to do is to protect our network, and that is what we call network security, which is a branch of cyber security. Now, cyber security is a very big umbrella. If you one day in your card or your CV you show people this is my name card, when they see cyber security analyst, who you, then they will look at you with different eye. Okay, because this is a very special job. Like now we don't even have enough people in the cyber security field. So if you are good in security and hacking and something else like along the line, you'll be very well paid. Okay, but okay, this class is not about cyber, it's about network security, which is part of cyber security. Now, why we are doing this is why we are protecting our network. It's because so far, let me ask you honestly, from week 1 to week 8, you learn about networking and datacom. Do you think it's difficult? Do you think the things that we have been learning so far, is it hard for you? Yes or no? Or you think like this is like so easy? Compared to other subjects like programming that you're having, I think, and some other program subject, it's not really hard, right? Yeah, okay, still okay. It's middle, very hard. Kenneth is very hard because Kenneth joined us for the first time in this class. All subjects are hard. Oh, okay, so many people say this is hard. Okay, you see this one is easy. Okay, this one make me so happy. Okay, that means now for the people who say hard, you spend so much time to build network until sweating. You see now I'm sweating because Saturday no aircon and I cannot turn on this fan too loud, otherwise you cannot hear me. Okay, now then we have to protect. It's just like love. I'm not sure whether you have ever fall in love. No offense to anyone, just an example. I think if you have ever been in love, you know it's easy for you to find love, right? But it is hard for you to stay in love. Code hour 2021. It's easy to find love, it's hard to stay in love. Because then when you are with another people, when you live together, suddenly you find maybe she is not the one. Okay, I don't want to go there. Then it becomes a TED talk. So network also the same. It's very hard to build a network. No, it's easy to build a network, like what you say. It's not hard if you follow the class. But to protect the network is a bit hard. Okay, which is why cyber is a tough subject. One day you will take the cyber security class. Now this day, in this stream, we are going to learn this thing called access control list here. And this is the first thing that you are going to learn in one of the tools to protect and safeguard your network that you have built so far. Okay, protect your love, protect your network. Okay, remember to do protection. This is important. Okay, now, so I think you already get an idea of what ACL is. What you can do with ACL is like you can actually control the bad thing from happening in your network. Now, of course, the way it controls is very different from an antivirus or a firewall or intrusion detection or something, some other security tech that we have out there. Now, ACL really works based on one idea, which is filtering. That action that I do earlier, these actions, I have all these things. I'm trying to separate the green bin from the red bin. ACL is exactly like that. You can imagine these bins as packets. And what ACL do is, when I get a packet, I will see whether I should, if this packet is a good packet or a bad packet. Bad packet could means malicious packet that contain virus or intrusions or botnet or things like that. That is bad packet. So this is what ACL do. I just want to filter out the bad one from the good one or the good one from the bad one. That is access control list. Okay, and that is what we're going to learn today. for the whole 2 hours. I will be teaching you the concept behind ACL. And in fact, later you will see we have 2 kinds of ACL, standard ACL and extended ACL. And then I'll show you how you can configure ACL to protect your network. Alright? I think these people here, especially Kenneth, have too much coffee today. He is so active. Difficulty is medium, protecting is hard, destroying is easy. Q, I think you have the talent to become a hacker one day. You need to love Datacom, so Datacom love you. Wow, this is so nice. I'm going to steal this line from you. Okay, now, so before I show you the real stuff here, I will explain the theory and the intuition behind ACL first. So, first thing, ACL is a way to categorize packets. So, if you look at the slides here, yeah, like what I said earlier, just filtering. The keyword here is filtering. So, ACL is done on the router, not a switch. So if you have a router like this, okay, then why got people ask me question like that? Okay, now continue. So this is a router. Before we learn ACL, life is very easy for a router. I get the packet, I check my routing table, I see where you want to go, I send the packet out, just like that. Now with ACL, life get a bit harder for router because now you have to do one extra thing, which is now you have to check the packets that I get. Is it good or is it bad? Now if it is good one, okay, I'm going to send. If this is a bad packet, okay, I'm just saying bad as in general because bad packet can mean many kind of things. Okay, now if it is bad, like it could contain virus or something, no, I have to throw this away. So I'm not saying like ACL is an antivirus. Okay, because ACL, how he decide who is good, who is bad, is really up to you. Later, as you see when you learn how to build ACL, you are the one who is actually deciding what to go ahead, what to throw away. You are the one. Alright, but anyway, the idea is now if the packet gets into the router, before the router can just send it out to any other interface, he will now have to check the content of this packet, or you have to check the IP header of this packet or some other things depending on what we said later, and then he have to see whether this one can go through or this one have to throw away. Alright, so this is what packet filtering means here. Okay, now if you think like, okay, this is not convincing, why I want to learn something like this, then maybe I should tell you ACL in another way. So think about ACL is like a tool where if you know, you can control the network. So who control the network? You are the king. Okay, money is king. The guy who know ACL also is king, because with ACL you can now control a few things like, first, you can choose who can use the network, who cannot use the network, depending on whether you like this guy or you don't like this guy. Or another thing is you can choose to let people what kind of different applications or service that people can go. So for example, I can say now you are in my network, I let you watch YouTube because Awo is streaming on YouTube. Watch YouTube and then add some view for him. Okay, or but I say I don't want you to use play Dota or Steam games using my network. Then I can choose to block some services specifically based on using ACL. So you see ACL can really do a lot. So what it means to you, like, is this really useful for me? Yes, maybe. Now you might not know it yet because you're not here. One day, when you come here, when you are staying in a hostel, yeah, most likely you will get an annoying housemate that always like to download. It happens to me also. During my study, again, I have some story that I want to share. I moved 3 times. Not because I was chased out or I didn't pay rental. It's just that I want to try new environment. But for all that 3 times, I will have that one housemate that once he get back from his class, my game should become very lag. I'm always playing Dota all the time. Okay, it's weird coming from a lecturer, but I'm always playing games all the time. I still graduate, luckily. Then this guy, I'm so scared of him, you know. Once I hear the sound of the lock, I tell my friend, faster push, I cannot stay for too long. Because this guy, once he come in, sure download, sure torrenting. I do not know whether you know what is a torrent. It's a 90s thing. And then they will take up all the bandwidth. So people like this, we should control them using ACL. Don't let them steal all the bandwidth of the internet. This is so cool, right? So if you learn something like this, this is something that you can do. It's better that that's why it's called access control. ACL is access control, means that you want to choose who can do what on my network. Something like this. Okay? So it's like government. Yes, correct, Michael. You are asking a good question. Later I will ask you that question back. So that is my story. I have another story. Today is story time because it's Saturday. I want to feel chill a bit. Another story is let's say if you do not know how to control ACL. I mean, if you cannot do ACL is actually quite hard, to be honest. The concept is easy. As you will see later, when I explain, it's very easy one. But when you really go and do it, you'll find it's a bit difficult. Because in ACL, it's difficult. It's easy for you to learn. It's difficult for you to master. Alright? In ACL, there is no right or wrong. So you cannot write an ACL and then you take your answer, you compare to your friend. Because definitely, two answers will be different. Different people write different ACL. Okay? With your own taste and flavor. So there is no right or wrong in ACL. It's just whether your ACL is better or more effective than the other people ACL. Alright, so it's a bit difficult to master. Now, if you think it's too hard for you, between us, don't worry. ACL is only part of, this one will be in your lab test 2 and also your FA. There is one small question about ACL. Now, if you think you only want to pass, then if ACL is too hard, then maybe you can skip ACL. You can still control network access. You can still stop people from using your network. Just pull the cable out from the router. No need to control, no need to configure anything. That's what my mother do. When I was studying in high school, I am so scared of my mom because if she know I'm playing games, she will just go and pull the cable from the router. Always do that. So you know what I did? I changed the whole router to Wi-Fi router. No more cable. Then she got no more cable to pull. Then I'm not scared anymore. Okay, so now come back to this ACL first. Oh, it's really hot today, you know. Someone post in UC for me, turn on aircon on Saturday. Cannot cut electric one. Kiwi, how do I read your name? Kiwi, are you Kiwi? If you cut electric, you also don't have internet ma. My mom used to pull my cable because she know that cable connect to my desktop. But if she turn off the whole router, she also don't have internet. No, later you ask me to wear sleeveless. Okay, now, before we start ACL, one concept first. So just now I say there are two ways you do ACL. I mean, there are many ways. So later on, you will find there are two types of people. Okay, so one type of people is the light mode. Another is the dark mode. I don't know which are you. Are you using dark mode right now on your YouTube, or you are light mode people? I'm both. I'm a bit of both. I like light mode in the daytime, then at night dark mode. Okay, ACL also like that. We have Blacklist and we have Whitelist. So Whitelist is like the light mode. Blacklist is like the dark mode. So there are two ways to do it. Now again, no right or wrong. It's just whether you are which kind of person. Okay. So now I will explain what is Whitelist and Blacklist, and then I ask you a few questions. You tell me what do you think. Okay. Now, when we do a blacklist, for example, let's say you want to design ACL, then you do blacklist. Now, this one is not in the slide. It's just a concept I will briefly explain. So, blacklist. How to write in white color font? Let me do this. Then this is so cool. Whitelist. Huiyo. Now, blacklist is you want to block one people or a few people, but you know who is the bad guy. Okay, now this is the the concept here. You already know the IP address that you want to block. So I don't want to say it's a bad guy, because it can be anyone. Maybe you are the bad guy because you block people. Okay, now the main principle here is that you know who to block. You have a set of IP address that you want to deny them. The guy who stay with me and always download, he is definitely in the blacklist. Alright, now for whitelist is the opposite. It is if you do not know who to block. Now in this case, the only thing you can do is you have to know who to trust. Okay, now on a network, of course, the main principle of network is Taylor Swift said it the best. I don't trust nobody and nobody trusts me. That is the main the main principle that you should, the mentality that you should have going to the network. Especially now this day, if you look at all the IG story, even my own IG story, you shouldn't believe any of them. Look at the profile picture that you get from Tinder, and then when you go to meet in person, you cannot even recognize that guy. So don't trust anything you see online. So whitelist is a concept where you only know who to trust, then you will add this IP address to whitelist. Now, any IP in the whitelist will be allowed to use the network. But if your IP is not inside this whitelist, a pool of address, then you will be blocked. So the concept is like this. You will have a pool. Now this is a pool of address. So inside here got a lot of IP address. Okay. Now if this is a blacklist, if your IP is inside, then you cannot use the network. Alright, so if your IP is in a blacklist, then you have a router like this. If your packet goes here, then it will be dropped. Now if this is a whitelist, then your IP, if your IP is here, so I have a router, the packet come in here. If he check this database, okay, now your IP is here, then yes, you will go through. If your IP is not inside, then you will be dropped. Okay, so this is whitelist and blacklist. The difference is like that. Okay, now based on this concept here, now I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then you let me know what do you think currently they are using. Do you think this is a whitelist or a blacklist? Okay, now let me try to I can create a poll. Okay, let me type the questions in the poll. Now the first question is like what your friend asked earlier. Our government blocked us from going to the favorite website. Okay, wait, let me try this new feature on the chat. Okay, now look at the Zoom chat. The first question, what do you think? When government block us, I'm sure some of us know, especially the guy here know. There are some websites that when you want to go, you can never ever see the website. You will see a website cannot be displayed. Then you have to change your DNS to 8.8.8.8. Now that thing is happened because government forced our telco. They forced Maxis, DG, and it's MCMC, the government body, that they forced them to build a list in their DNS. And if they see that the IP address of xxx.something.com, then you will be blocked. So do you think that is a blacklist or a whitelist? Okay, look at the answer. Correct, that is blacklist. Most people get it correct. So you see, when government want to block us from going to certain website, they have to know specifically what website to block. So some popular one is of course blocked already. I cannot say this here because I do not know what is the website. But yeah, you know some of the websites still is still reachable. You can still see those websites because government cannot know all the website that is for adult that has adult content. So of course they will miss some of the website. So this is one downside of blacklist. If you want to block all the adult stuff, then you will have to know all of them. Otherwise, some will still get through. Alright? Okay, now the next scenario here. Okay, questions number 2. Okay, this is about Microsoft Teams. So let's say you are a Utah student. Let me type this. Okay, now next question. A bit of backstory. Do you know that as a Utah student, you actually have unlimited cloud storage? Do you guys know that? In fact, we are subscribed to this Google Drive, and we do not have limit in Google Drive, which means that as long as you have your one Utah email, you can always use unlimited free storage. So don't even think to subscribe to Google Drive Unlimited or what, because Utah is already unlimited. So you can put everything, your backup, all your videos to your one Utah Drive. Nobody is going to see your data, don't worry. Well, the problem is that once you graduate, I think you cannot use this anymore. So you have to find a way to export all your data out. Okay, now, what approach do you think Utah use? How do we suddenly kick you out from Microsoft Teams? You cannot use our Google Drive, or you cannot use any of the service anymore. Why? How do you think we do it? Whitelist or blacklist? Okay, a lot of people say whitelist. That is correct. That is correct. It's a whitelist. So the way we do this is when you pay your money, when you pay your tuition fee, we will add your student ID to a list, not IP, because we cannot know what is your IP. We add a list of your student ID. Then you can access all our cloud service, our Microsoft Teams, our OneDrive, and everything that we have already paid for. We pay a lot of money actually. That is why you see some people complain in Utah Confessions. Why I need to pay resources fee when I study for OTL? Actually, all your money go here. So please use the money. Please use the service because you paid for it. It's not actually free. You paid for it. Like another thing we are using your money is for the speed upgrade. Right now, we are upgrading our network here to 2000 megabits per second. Yeah, you heard me right. 2000 megabits is really, really fast. I cannot wait for you to come back and try this out on your own. Okay. Now I'm just enjoying the full speed by myself. Thank you very much. Okay, coming back to this. Utah actually use a whitelist. So we will add your ID into a list. Once you graduate, we'll take it out. So you cannot use the service anymore. So if your ID is not in the whitelist, you cannot use our service. Alright? Okay, unlimited cloud. Why they don't just throw you to blacklist? Cannot throw you to blacklist. Then if you are not in whitelist, you cannot use, but you are not banned. If you become a blacklist, then one day you come back and do your PhD here, then how? You cannot use. No. So whitelist is easier that way. Okay, now the third question. Okay, last, and then we want to start to do the hardcore thing we will configure. Okay, now this question is more relatable to guys who actually try to bid for Nike shoes. So okay, the question is already up. Let me know what you think. So the case is like this. If you know some of the students here who are really rich, one of the way they earn the side income is they try to sculpt for Nike shoes online. Okay, we call them scalper. I hate this kind of people also because they make the real people who want to get the shoes, they don't have stock anymore. So what they do is they will buy all those like limited edition shoes, and then they try to resell it at a higher price. Now, of course, a lot of people is doing that. So if you are just trying to click and then you try out your luck, it's very hard to work. Okay, so one of the smart thing to do is you use bot, because you have this auto checkout bot that if you use at exact time when they release the sales, you can automatically check out at the first minute. Then you get the items, you get the products. This kind of auto bots, it also works for Lazada and Shopee. So if you are like, okay, I'm going to get this thing, but it's only one item left in stock, then you can use an auto checkout bot. Alright, now of course all bots are different. The bot that you use on Lazada website will be different from the one you use on the Nike website. But yeah, the idea is the same. Some people are using bots to check out so that they don't miss anything. This is why you think like sometimes is Shopee cheating or what? Why it say 12 o'clock got this voucher, but immediately I press checkout on 12 o'clock, voucher is all grabbed by other people. Why they are faster? Is it because their internet is faster, or their hand action per minute is higher, or I don't know why is faster, or maybe they're just lucky? No, actually because they use bot to check out. Okay, so now of course Nike will block because it's not fair. How do you think Nike blocked this bot? Is it a blacklist or a whitelist? Okay, the answer is very clear. Clear winner is blacklist. That is correct. That is correct. So the way Nike, I think even Lazada now start to block all these things is they use they have a auto bot checker for auto bot. So a bot checking for a bot, and if they detect the IP is repeating, the behavior of the checkout is the same or coming from the same address, same credit card, then they will block. And that is by doing a blacklist. Okay. See, some people is so smart here, they teach you how to use the bot. Okay, now that is the idea of blacklist and whitelist. One more bonus example before we start the real lecture. 40 minutes already. What do you think is the policy, the ACL policy of a pretty girl? Do you think a pretty girl use blacklist or whitelist on a guy like us? On a nerdy guy like us? Is it whitelist or blacklist? What do you think? Girl is blacklist or whitelist? Red Bean say it's whitelist. Whitelist. You guys, no, you should ask the girl here. I tell you the truth, based on my true story. They use whitelist on handsome guy, and they use blacklist on guy like us who study in FICT. Look at this guy want to blacklist me. This is true story, because I have one friend, pretty girl, who also play Dota. You know how rare that is. And then one day I messaged the girl, do you want to play a game? No reply. Blue tick me. But actually, she no reply but there's another guy who is having lunch with me. She replied to that guy, you know, immediately, like 秒回, so fast, but blue tick me. That is the moment I know. Because that guy is not from FICT, so I know girl is blacklist us, but whitelist all other handsome guy. Okay, now you know the idea here. So later I will explain two concepts. I will show you I will show you there are two types of ACL. So first one is standard ACL, second one is extended ACL. I will show you the command how we set ACL. So not a lot of theory. In ACL, you just need to understand how to configure. And then based on the concept of blacklist and whitelist, I will show you that in fact there are more than one way for us to build ACL. Alright, so let's start. Okay, now first thing to take note. This is the first concept today. When we do ACL, okay, there are two things. So, why today only 160 people? Where is other 30? Moment of silence to our friend who didn't make it for this class. 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now, I don't know why they don't come. ACL is the most difficult one. Okay, now, look at this slide. Kenneth, I think you have too much coffee today. Hey, yeah, I tell you, in data comm, in this subject, the most difficult thing is this lecture and next lecture, because I cannot finish ACL in one lecture. It's really a bit difficult. And this thing here, just now I say, okay, if you think you do not want to learn, it's fine, but it's not a good way, because when you go to take cyber security, This is a basic skill that if you cannot understand ACL, the basic thing that I'm going to show you today, you cannot do security, because a lot of cyber security thing is based on ACL. So this is like really important. For one, that is one reason. Now, second reason is when you do Datacom level 2, actually there is another level after Datacom. So if you think this is hard, there is another level 2 coming. Now that subject also got ACL, but when you go to level 2, we do not teach you how to write ACL all over again, because we already expect you know it. It's like you go to, in Datacom, I'll say, you will learn this in year 2. When you go to year 2, your lecturer will say, you already learned this in year 1. So make sure you know what we are doing today. It's really important for your future. Future-proof yourself today. Okay, now, 2-step. This is the first concept today. When we do ACL, got 2 steps. First step is you create. Okay? Second step is you place. So, cannot miss any of this. Create means you design. Now, creating is the most difficult part. This is the part where all your answer will be different. So if I give you an assignment today and then I check your answer, if I see 2 ACL is the same, I can say you copy each other, because it's not supposed to be the same. I mean, much or less the same, but cannot be exactly the same. Okay, depends on the designer of the ACL. Okay, so today you are the designer. Okay, now of course, if the question is the same, then most likely it's about the same lah. Okay, now the second thing is here, this is where you will see got blacklist and whitelist. So later on, you have to choose whether you want to be dark mode or light mode here. Okay, now after you write your ACL, it will look something like this. Don't worry, first I will show you how to write all these things. Then you have to place your ACL. Now placement is important. If this is a router, when you design your ACL, you do it here inside the router, and your ACL will be stored in the router memory. Okay, and it is not going to use the ACL until you place it. So for all routers, there are many interfaces. You will have to tell the router, okay, now I have created one ACL. I want you to use the ACL here or here, depending on where you want. And that is another skill that you have to learn later. Because placement itself, depending on whether you are pro or you are just a newbie, the placement makes a difference also. Depending on where you place it, sometimes you might speed up the ACL process itself. Okay, so there are 2 things here. Now the next thing is, like I say, you have 2 different kind of ACL. The first one is called the standard ACL. The second is called extended. Okay, now the name ACL is not really any ACL, because name ACL is just like I give it a name. So your standard ACL can also have a name. Your extended one also have a name. So this is not really a type of ACL. And I'm going to show you only both the first 2. Okay, now what are the difference? When do you do the standard and when do you do the extended one? Okay, now standard one is, of course, the easy way to say is if you cannot do extended one, then do the standard one, because it's easier. Okay, to configure standard ACL is easier than the extended one. Now, standard ACL works at the host level. Okay, meanwhile, the extended one works at the applications level, APP. I like Chinese people when they say apps, they call this APP, so cute. Okay, now see, these are different. So for example, use my housemate example earlier. I told you, like, I have one housemate who always hog all the bandwidth, and now I'm thinking to block this guy. Okay, now if I use standard ACL to block my friend, I'm not sure if it's still a friend if I do that. Now I block him. This is going to block the whole machine itself, the whole PC. Means that this guy now will no longer ever get to the internet or can never use the network anymore. The whole PC. Doesn't matter what is running, the whole PC. That's why we call this the host level. Host means devices. So do you want to block these people at the host level or the service level? Now service level is also called applications. So this one means that I do not want to block the whole thing, but I choose to block some applications inside the PC. For example, now instead of blocking my housemate totally, like he cannot use, so when he connect and then he will see no internet access, connected but no internet. Oh, that kind of feeling, I think you understand, right? Connected but no internet. Now, you don't want to do that because why? Maybe I still need his car to get to ETS station. I still need him. I still need him to share the internet bill, something like that. So you cannot block him totally out. What you can do is you block him by application. So for example, if this guy is always using a torrenting software to download videos, alright, I think no people does this anymore because now we are just going to stream from some website, right? Now back in those days when I was still studying, we like to torrent because we like to steal data, we like to steal music from Taylor Swift. We don't want to pay Taylor Swift 99 cents, alright? So that is torrent. Now you can just choose to block that service. Then some other service you can allow. So let's say this is all the applications that is running. Alright, all the circles here represent the apps. So you can say now I want to block Microsoft Teams. I want to block in Google Chrome. I want to block FIFA Online. You can choose which applications you want to block. Then when you apply your ACL, this guy is still going to be able to use the network, but some services cannot use. Alright, so that is the difference. So you have to be very clear about this. Now, if in the exam you have a questions on ACL and you can solve the question using standard ACL, please use standard ACL because standard ACL is faster, is less burden to the router. Okay, of course you can use extended ACL to solve a very simple questions, but then it will slow down the router. Okay, now of course if the questions require you to block some services, then no choice, you will have to use the extended ACL. Alright, okay, so these are the difference. Now I will start to show you the command now for the ACL, and then in a short while I will also show you what we call a wildcard mask. Okay, I think Kenneth Kong is not just, I think Kenneth Kong might be a stalker. I'm going to add him to Blacklist later. How come you know? Oh, I think I shared a story before. That's how you know. Okay, just download from YouTube. Why need to torrent? Hey, this guy here, do you know that back in my days, there is no YouTube? Okay, block Dota. Cheese and pizza. I don't block Dota one because now I don't play. No people want to play with me anyway. No need to block. I wish my house router can do what Cisco do. Okay, I have to be honest. Your house router also got ACL. Believe me, if you go into your router and you check, there is ACL also. So whatever you learn today, you can do it on your own router. Okay, it's not just for Cisco router. I blacklist my neighbor Wi-Fi. Why you blacklist your neighbor Wi-Fi? You're supposed to steal your neighbor Wi-Fi. Okay, now come to the command here. So standard ACL, the syntax is start with access list. Then you have the number. Okay, the number is any number from 1 to 99. You will see this later. So there are four parameters here. Then deny and permit, and then a conditions. So 4 parameters here. Now if you write a standard ACL, later it will look something like this. Something like this, okay? Okay, let me show you the real syntax. I will rewrite this one so that it becomes easier for you to see. Okay, so standard ACL got 4 parameters. You start with access list, so this is the keyword. Then you follow by the ID. Then is followed by deny or permit. And then the source IP. Now, this is my own version. I think better you use my version. Okay, now this ID here can be any number from 1 to 99. So if you look at this slide here, the ID must be any number from 1 to 99 for a standard ACL. Okay, now if I put any number larger than 99, let's say 100 or 101, then this becomes extended ACL. So this is how your router know whether you want a standard ACL or extended by looking at the number. Any number smaller than 100, so 1 to 99, will means you want to create a standard ACL right now. Okay, now The third part here is either permit or deny. So this is like what I said earlier. ACL is filtering. Good packet or not good. Bad, good or bad. Just yes or no. It's a binary operations. So in ACL, it's as simple as do you want to allow or do you want to block? So it's either permit or deny. Okay. Now the last part here is a bit difficult. This part here is an IP address, but it depends on how you want to write it. Okay, there are actually 3 ways. So when you want to block people, you can choose to block these people like this. Let's say this is a network. Okay, look at this network here. So I have 3, 4 PC. All the circle is the PC. I can choose to block one machine. Then the other 3 I don't touch. Or I can choose to block a few selected one, like these 2 here. Then the other 2 I don't touch. Or I can choose to block the whole subnet entirely, the whole network also can. And how do I do this? Is by writing the IP address in the last part here. The condition here means the IP address. And actually the IP address is a source IP. Okay, now remember when we talk about data call, when I send a data from my side to your side, I am the source, you are the receiver, so you are the destination. So IP address got 2 types. The sender IP will be the source IP, the receiver IP will be the destination IP. Now in standard ACL, it's very important that you remember this. It only works by checking the source IP, which means that standard ACL will never understand destination IP. Alright, now in a while when I give you an example, then you will see what I mean. So coming back to this one here. So I think just as a refresher, access list, so you have the keyword here and then the ID, remember any number from 1 to 99, and then whether you want to deny or you want to permit, and this last part here is an IP address. Okay, so you see here there are 3 types. A host, this one means that I block 1 people. Okay, this one here is a LAN, means I block the whole network. This one here means any means that I am blocking or allowing anyone that I don't care. I just say any means it could be any random people. Alright, so let me give you some example. So let's say again there are 3 types. Type 1, there is one slide that talk about this. Okay, this slide talk about this. Let me use this slide. Okay, so look at type 1 first. Type 1 is I block 1 host. So this one is blocking 1 host. Now when I want to block, the command is like this: host followed by the IP. So you see, you don't forget, this is like a common mistake that many people do. You just need to put in, of course, the IP address that you want to block. So it's a single source or host IP. But in front here, you need to add the keyword host. So this is to block 1 guy. Cannot forget this one. Don't forget this keyword host followed by the IP. Okay. Now the second example is I block anyone. Block or permit anyone. I'm writing block. Actually, you should write allow because the example is allow. So allow. Okay, because you see this example is permit. So it's a whitelist. Allow anyone. Now in this case, if you look at this example here, any. Now this is the whole parameter here. The whole parameter, no IP, just write one word any. And if you do this, it means that the router will now say, okay, I don't care. As long as you have an IP address, you are allowed. This means any. Okay. Now the third part is selected host. Means that I can choose PC1 and PC3 and PC5. I choose some PC in a subnet or in the network. Now, to do that, this is the parameter here. So you see, the first parameter is this one. This is the network ID. Okay. The next parameter here is a wildcard mask. This is a bit difficult. Alright. So I will show you more example. Don't worry. Now, the third one here means if you choose to block a few people but not all people. You cannot use any. You have to use a wildcard mask. So what is a wildcard mask? It's something like a subnet mask. I will show you more later. And with this parameter here, you can choose to block a few certain selected people. So what I want you to take away from this slide is, this is the standard ACL command. Okay, I think you already know. Now, this part here, deny and permit. If I want to do a whitelist, I will use the keyword permit. If I want to do a blacklist, I will use the keyword deny. And then for the source IP part, there are 3 types. So type 1 is you block for a single host, then you use the keyword host and then some IP here. Alright, now for the second type is anyone, then you just use the keyword any. For the third type is selected few hosts, then you have to use the network ID and the wildcard mask. Okay, so this is the 3 types. I hope you get this clearly first, so that later when I show you example, you know that why I am telling you this. Okay. Now this is standard ACL. Actually, the command is not hard. You see only 4 things. In fact, only 3 things because you don't even want to count this, right? Okay. Now that is standard ACL. Okay. Now I'm going to show you one example how I design ACL now before I show you wildcard mask. So I will change to another slide. Okay. Let me finish that slide and then you can take a 5-minute break. And when we come back, I will show you how to calculate all these wildcard masks. Okay. If you think you need more motivation, let me tell you, all these things that you see here is in your question 1 in your final exam. Is this even legal? Should I be saying this? Okay, now, next example, I need you to open another slide that is called ACL Extra. You will see something like this. For those who haven't got this, click on the link in the description down below. There's one link that you can download the game file that we need, and also you will get this slide. So I need you to see this thing now. Okay, we are going to start to design our first ACL. So sit up straight. If you are still lying on the bed, sit up straight, do some stretch, and then we want to write ACL now. Okay, let me explain the network here. So we have 3 PC, PC0, PC1, and PC2. PC1 and PC0, they are in the same network on the left side. And then for PC2 is on the bottom right corner that you have on PC2. Now they are connected through 3 routers. Now what we want to do here is, we are now you can think of this like, okay, now I'm the network administrator today. And my boss asked me to configure access control. Now, of course, you will have your own requirement like what you can do, what you cannot do. We call this network policy. Okay, like in Utah, we also have policy. You are not supposed to play game at the back row of in the lab. But this always happens. The last row in the lab always playing game or always watching Dota replay. They never listen. Okay, so now go to the next slide here. This is our requirement, the policy that I'm just saying. Okay, now we want to do this. So later on, we want to block PC0 so that he cannot go to PC2, which means cannot ping. And then the next thing we do is we want to allow PC1 to go to PC2. So what it means is later after we set everything here, this guy PC0, when I try to ping to PC2, when I try to ping, you should get a ping field, which is a bit weird. When you see a ping field, you will say, yay, it's time to celebrate. Okay, ACL is a bit weird. When you cannot ping, you celebrate. In a normal case, if you cannot ping, then you have to call tech support. Alright, now the second case here is you want to allow PC1 to PC2. So this one here later when I ping, you should be able to ping. Okay, so I hope you understand the requirement today. So 2 requirements. PC0 cannot ping to PC2, but PC1 can ping to PC2. Now, of course, in this case, you cannot just pull the cable. You don't tell me I just pull this cable, then problem solved. Okay, you have to configure ACL. Now, again, next thing, configure ACL is on a router. So here I got 3 routers. Okay, I can choose to configure ACL at any of these router. Okay, but for the best result, okay, I can tell you this: for standard ACL, always place the ACL in the router closest to the destination network. Okay, now this is a rule that you can follow. If I ask you, among these 3 routers, where should I configure my ACL? It depends on whether you want to do standard or extended. If you do a standard ACL, you want to place it to the destination, close to the destination. So in this case, PC0 is the source, PC2 is the destination. So if I want to write an ACL, standard one, to control this access, I want to place this ACL here. This is the best choice. Okay, now of course it doesn't mean you have to, it's just that this is the best choice. Okay, there is a reason for that, but I do not want to explain because otherwise it becomes more confusing. Alright, so yeah, that's correct, router 2. Meanwhile, for extended ACL that we are also going to learn next week, always place the ACL in the router closest to the source network. Alright, so this is the rule here. Let's say if you do an extended one, then you want to put it closest to the source. Now for example, if let's say right now I do extended ACL here, then I should put it here. Okay, so extended ACL, put it in the router that's closest to the source. This is the source. This is the destination. So standard ACL, put it in the router closest to the destination. Okay, do you get this? This is about the placement. Now there are many reasons to this. If I want to explain this, it will take me 1 hour. So I do not want to explain this. I just want you to remember this. So let's say one day you go interview in Huawei or Cisco or any network company, they ask you about this question. Take this out and then just read this to them. Hopefully they don't ask you why lah. Okay, now normally they ask something like that one. Okay, so this is the rule of placement. If you are clear, then let's see how we actually design the ACL now. Okay, now when we design ACL, later you will see there are many rules that I will explain while I'm designing the ACL with you. Okay, so first thing, you have to understand whether you want to do a blacklist or a whitelist first. Alright, so first example I'll be showing you is I will now show you a blacklist approach. So blacklist means denied. Now in this case, let me ask you, do you think you should do blacklist or whitelist better? We already know this is the requirement. We need to block PC0, but we allow PC1. So blacklist or whitelist? What do you think? Do you want to do whitelist or do you want to do blacklist? Okay, now if you cannot answer now, it's okay. Now I show you both methods and then by the end you decide which one is better. Okay, you see some people cannot say whitelist, Nick say blacklist. Actually both is correct. I always ask you questions that don't have answer. Now I do blacklist for you first. Yeah, correct, cheese and pizza is right, both also can. So you need the general syntax first, and now I write the general syntax for you. Is the ID, permit or deny, and then the source IP. Now make sure you really understand this because this one will follow you until year 2 and year 3. Okay, so this is the general syntax. Now I want to write the first line to achieve the first goal. So our goal here is to block. So goal number 1 is to block PC0 cannot go to PC2. Goal number 2, block, allow PC1 go to PC2. Okay, so of course each of these are requirement. You need 1 line of command to achieve. Okay, now first one I'm going to do for this one first to block PC2. Sorry, PC0 cannot go to PC2. Okay, so based on the syntax here, I write access list. So this is the general syntax. Okay, I'm just, everything is referred to here now. Okay, then the ID. Now remember, the ID can be any number from 1 to 99. So in fact, I can put 88 if I'm feeling very Chinese. This is fine. Okay, but normally we start with access list 1, the first one. Alright. Now the next one here is you have to choose you want to do blacklist or whitelist. So now I'm showing you the blacklist method, and blacklist will be using the deny keyword. Alright, so here I put deny, and the last parameter here is an IP address of the source host. Now the source here is PC0. So I go back to the network here, I see the source IP is 1.110. Sorry, 1.10. So it's 1.10 here. This is the source IP. Okay. So here I will write 192.168.1.10, and remember, because now this is type 1, you are blocking 1 people. So for type 1, you need to add a host keyword in front here. Don't forget this host keyword. And that is how I built the first line of ACL to achieve this, to block PC0. No, cannot go to PC2. Now you notice something. I never tell the router that where you cannot go, because like I say, standard one can only understand source IP, cannot understand where you go. So this is the first line of command. Alright, now next I will continue to do for PC1 can go to PC2. Okay, now access list, again you use back the same one. You don't want to create 2 or 3 or 4 for each rules, because if you have one ACL for one rules, then later when you place the ACL, you have to place a lot. So normally you want to do all of them in one single ACL. So I will reuse the number 1 here. Okay, then I use the keyword permit. Permit means that I want to allow. So allow who? Allow this guy here. Okay, 192.168.1.1. Okay, now I will write the IP address now. Host 192.168.1.1. When I do this, it will achieve this rule. So both rules I also set already. Okay, now if you finish here, this is totally correct. Okay, now, but I want to show you one more thing. You see, if I take this ACL now, and then I go to apply this ACL onto a router, it is going to do exactly what we want. PC0 will be blocked, but PC1 will not be blocked. Okay, now, in fact, maybe I can do this live for you. Should I do that? I have the packet tracer file. Let me think. Yes, I will just do that for you. Can PC1 ping PC2 if I didn't permit? Okay, now this is a good question. I answer some of your question first. So Windy is asking, can PC1 ping PC2 if I didn't deny it? Now the answer is cannot. Okay, cannot, because now let me show you 2 things lah. First thing is, in all ACL, there is an implicit deny statement. Alright, now this is one more thing that you should understand. So again, like I say, I will throw a few rules to you as I'm showing you how I write this command. So what this statement means is, now in all ACL, the routers will automatically add one line in the last ACL here, and the line is called deny any. Now this is a hidden line. Hidden means like hidden file. You do not see this thing. Okay, now if you do not see this thing, it means that you don't have to configure this. The router will do this automatically on its own, and what it really does is it will block anyone with any IP address. Okay, this is hidden statement. Even you don't want it, you don't like it, it is still there. This is true for all ACL, which means that if I write a statement like this, okay, and then I stop here. Okay, I stop here. Oops, wait, let me rewrite this. Now then, I ask you one question. If I have a new PC called PC3, so look at this example here. I connect one PC3, and the IP of PC3 is 192.168.1.3. Now, can you tell me whether this PC now, it can go to PC2 or not? Can PC3 ping PC2? Yes or no? The answer is, I will just be Dora because we have a lot of cover. Cannot. Because you see, I denied all. This one is, I will block anyone. This is for security. It's not a bug, okay? It's a feature. We do not trust anyone. So by default, you will block anyone. And you see here, I only allow this IP. So if I have a new PC3 with the IP 192.168.1.3, this guy will be blocked. Because there is one statement hidden in the router that says block anyone. Okay, so here only this PC1 will be allowed. Alright, now, of course there is a better way. If this is the case, and if I think like one day, I don't want to be so troublesome, because let's say if I add PC3, then I have to go back to the ACL, and then I have to write this statement here, 192.168.1.3. This one is to allow the new PC3. It's actually quite troublesome, right? So what we normally do is, we will just write this statement called access list 1 permit any. Now if I write a permit any here, this will negate this statement. So this statement deny any will not be used anymore, because now I say permit anyone. Okay, now two things I want you to take note. Okay, another thing. Router reads ACL statement line by line. So this is another new rules. Okay, now what does this mean? Is the router, when you read all your ACL statement, he will read from line 1 to line 2 to line 3 and so on. Okay, now the router will do this. I start here. I read this one. Okay, I want to block PC0. Done. Read here. Okay, I want to allow PC1. Done. Then I read here. Okay, I want to allow anyone. Done. Now once I read this thing, I will not read this line anymore, because this and this is contradicting. Hey, I say I like you and then I say I don't like you the next minute. So you cannot do this to a router. So what router does is, after I read this line, I will terminate. I will not read further. So anytime router read a line like this, whatever you type here later will not take effect anymore, because the router will exit, stop reading from this line. You already tell me to allow anyone, what else do I want to know? Correct? So if I do this thing here, it actually means that you are allowing anyone else, but you only block one people, which is PC0. And if you add any new hosts later on to the network, they will all be able to go to PC2. Alright? Now, I take some of your questions here. So happy to see everyone is still awake. So if we give permissions to one PC, other PC also cannot connect, right? So hush, this question I just answered. If we write a statement permit any, then in fact all other PC can access, except the line that is blocked here, which is PC0. Alright? Then why do we need to deny PC0 is that is already denied by default? Yes, Nick, this is a good question. Now, that is already denied by default. But if I don't because now I want to write permit any. Okay, so I want to tell the router to block this guy first, then I permit everyone else. This is one way you can do this. Alright? If line 3 permit any doesn't mean line 1 deny host will be allowed. No. Okay, Adrian, this is a good question. Again, like I said, the router will read line by line. So this one has the highest precedence. This is the most important. I will for sure I block this guy. For sure I will allow this guy. And then I will allow everyone else. So this is what it means here. Now, the next thing is, yes, the opposite is whitelist, correct. Now, the next thing, you see, that's why I said ACL is a bit hard really. If I already permit any, I think you can guess, I don't have to write this line. Am I correct? Because since I want to permit any, then I don't need this line, right? So in fact, that's correct. I don't even need to write allowed PC1 because permit any will already allow PC1. And again, this line is not visible, it's hidden. So in fact, your answer should be just like this. Alright? Okay, now, Bindi asks, if we type permit any first or deny cannot function, that is correct. If you permit any first, in the first place, you don't want to do ACL. Correct or not? Why you want to do ACL if you permit any? Okay, but yeah, again, that's a correct concept. Now, the third thing I want you to take care is, the router will, even you modify, ACL cannot be injected. So ACL statement cannot be injected in between lines. Feels like I'm writing lyrics for my next love song. Okay, now, guys, I want you to look at this statement, and then we try to understand this. So, just now I show you a few things like access, this. Okay, now I permit any. I give you one example. Let's say now my boss said I want to block PC3. Okay, this guy here, I want to block him also. Okay, now we know how to block already. It's very easy. Just use the deny. So what I do is I come here, I write access this one deny host 192.168.1.3. This is PC3 IP address. Alright. Now if I do this, do you think this will work? Do you think this will work? Do you think PC3 will be blocked? Now the answer is no. No. Okay. Why? We did everything correctly. Yes. No error. Syntax is correct, but no. Because again, the same concept. ACL read, router reads ACL line by line. So when I read permit any, all the things that I do here will not be even considered anymore, right? So if you tell me like you don't like dog or if you don't like cat, sorry, don't need to think, cannot be my girlfriend. So anything after that you don't read. So this means that even if you want to block a new host here, you cannot just write a new statement after a permit any. Alright? Which means you cannot inject statement here. So you cannot just like, okay, I'm going to write this thing here and then it will work. No, because you cannot, there is no way for you to come back here and write this line. Alright, so what you can do is, you can only do one thing. Delete the whole ACL and redo again. That is the only way. So you have to start over again, write like this. And then write another statement like this. And then you do access this one permit any so that PC1 will be allowed. So this is the only way. Alright? Okay, now blacklist is boycott, whitelist is true list. That is correct, Nick. Nick, you think you can start a YouTube channel and start to teach the small kid about network? Okay, Adrian asking, so usually we permit any or deny at the end of the line. Yes, Adrian, you are correct. So depending on whether you want to do whitelist or blacklist law, normally if you want to do, I think, yeah, normally it's at the last line. So you finish everything, you already decide you do not want to add any other host IP, then only you write permit any. But again, deny any, don't write one because deny any is automatically there. Yeah, I'm already blocking PC3 ma. I'm already blocking PC3. Okay, this is blocking PC3. Then allow everyone. Okay, I will now show you the next example using a whitelist approach. Okay, and then I will configure this on the real network. Later we all do this together. There is a file, if you download from the link down below, is there you get two game files. One is intern, one is admin. So today we start as Utah intern. I hope everybody can survive the internship for 30 minutes, not 3 months. And then next class, I show you extended ACL. And then that class we become Utah admin. Okay, so today we are all Utah intern. Now let's look at the next example. Okay, this is the same network, same thing. But now I want to use a whitelist, means that I want to choose who to allow, who to allow. Okay, Now, got a few questions. Sorry, Kiwi asked me a new questions. How to rewrite? Cannot add in the middle. Yes, cannot add in the middle. Delete the whole thing. Delete it and rewrite. So how to delete ACL is no access list 1. This is how you delete. If you want to delete access list 2, then no access list 2. Just like that, it will delete. Okay? Okay. Permit any. Alright, I guess you guys is still doing fine. It's quite rare that people is still responding at this time. I guess you also forget you have a midterm later. Don't worry about the midterm. The midterm you got 2 days to do it. So do it tomorrow also, never mind. Yes, you're right, Kenneth. It's like just like deleting a static route. Okay, now let's look at this one here. So why I show you both method is because some of you might prefer whitelist, some of you might prefer blacklist. Okay, it's really up to you. And in some cases, whitelist can be better than blacklist. Okay. Yes, your exam is 2 days. The whole weekend, I want you to think of me. Yeah, I open until tomorrow night, so don't worry. Have to outdo our quiz. If quiz I give you 1 day, midterm 2 days, lab test 3 days, but FA is 2 hours. FA is 3 hours. That one I cannot control. Yeah, 2 days, but then you have to do in 2 hours lah. Anytime, any 2 hours. Yeah, you are right, cheese. You are right. What needs to come still will come. So just finish it. What you should do is 2 way. Find a friend, start early first, and then you tell the friend, take one for the team. Then you can see all the questions already. The other way is, like I say, you can view source and find the answer. Okay, I have to cut this part out later. Okay, now let's do whitelist. Yes, midterm is MCQ 20 question only. Midterm is very hard for me to set. Because I think only two things can happen. Either it's easy for you to do or easy for me to mark, means everybody do not know how to do. So I changed the question 3 times. Now it's so easy, don't worry. 20 questions, very easy one. And then if you cannot answer, you find the link. On Weber, I got put 2 links, 2 special links. I think on our Tech TV also got 2 medium story. Some answer you can just get it from there. Michael asked us FA is MCQ. FA is MCQ. If this is my last semester here, I do FA MCQ. Then next semester I have to be a full-time YouTuber already. Yeah, Kiwi, I don't need to mark, but I need to set it to be easy. Look at this Kiwi, make me difficult. That's why I don't want to mark lah. So I put everything on level 1. Then I make more news story. Okay, now, whitelist, this slide is staring at us for so long. Okay, now, same thing. The requirement is the same. We want to block PC0, cannot go PC2, PC1 cannot go PC2. Okay, now let's see how we write this. Okay, the goal is the same, so I delete all these things here, but now this time is a whitelist. Okay, so yes, Nick, you are right. Now I start to write the ACL here. Okay, so access this 1. I am just using 1 because I want it to be clear, but if you have 2 ACL, you cannot reuse 1 lah. Okay, now whitelist is permit. So we want to put in all the IP of the host that we want to allow first. And then if you're not in the whitelist, automatically you will be blocked. I don't even have to say block who anymore. Alright. So in this case, we are only allowing this PC 1. Okay, and the IP is 1.1. So I go and write here. host 192.168.1.1. So this is, if I write this, it achieved this goal here. This is done. The rule is done. Okay, now the next rule is I have to write one more to block PC 0. So host 192.168.1.10. Okay, now if you write this, then this one will allow you to achieve this rule. So now PC 0 cannot talk to PC 2. Okay, now if you leave it as this as is, this is correct. But if you want it to look more atas, then yeah, this one in fact you don't have to write, because remember in all ACL there is one hidden deny any statement, which means that anyone that you are not permitting right now, you actually already block them by default. So I can delete this statement here and PC 0 will still be blocked. And in this case, only PC 1 will be allowed. So this is the final answer for my ACL design here. Okay, now this one might look easy because now we are just doing type 1. Remember, all this source IP that we are learning so far is just type 1. There is another one called type 3 where you have to choose a few hosts. Okay, type 3, I give you one example. It's something like this. Sometimes you have a few hosts. Okay, I won't explain type 3 in this class. I will do this on the next class. Alright, so let's say you have all these hosts. Now, when you learn a type 3, when you learn wildcard mask, you can actually combine all of them into one line. So cool. No need to write 4 line or 5 line. Okay, but that one is for next week. Okay, now based on what we learned here, the next thing I want to teach you is how to place this ACL. Now placement is also very important because like doesn't matter how good your video is, if no people watch it, then also don't have view one. You need to place it in the right place. Okay, sorry, this is the line. Okay, now if this is okay, then we move on to placement. There will be no more suicide case in Utah. Kenneth, this is so dark. My video is children friendly. Can we only write one permit command? Would the other get denied when trying to connect? Yes, Harsh, you are right. Now, if I do this, okay, since your friend Harsh is asking, I give you one more example. Now, if I configure this, I add a new PC 3. Okay, why is it so lagging? iPad is so lagging. Okay, now, in this case, this guy here will be blocked. You're right, because we only permit this guy. So any other new device with any IP here, it will be blocked one. Okay, so next we go to the placement. Oh, let me reset my iPad. It's a bit slow. This happens when you buy a new iMac, then your iPad stop responding. Because he knows he's not the favorite kids anymore. Okay, placement. Okay, now we already created the ACL. We call this ACL 1. For the placement, I'm going to use the whitelist ACL as the example. Okay, so we already have this thing. This is what we created from the previous slide. Okay, now this thing here, let's imagine this is called ACL 1 now. Okay, now our next job after we write is we have to choose where to put. Okay, now of course the best answer is router 2 because this is a standard ACL. Okay, anyway, just as demo, I'm going to put this in router 0 because it's easier for me to explain, but you have to understand the best answer is here. Okay, now if I use router 0, now I choose to place it on router 0. On router 0, I got two interfaces. I got FA00, I got FA01. Okay, now when you place ACL, you have 4 options. If you have 2 interface, then you have 4 options. You have 4 interface, you have 8 options. It's always double. Alright? Okay, so for each interface here, you have 2 directions. One is called in and the other is called out. So now you see for each interface got in and out. Okay, again, if a packet goes from PC0 going inside router, so it goes like this, like this, like this, like this, and go into the router. So this one is called going inside, correct or not? I go in ma. So this one here, these directions, the arrow is important. This is in. Okay, now if I have a packet that come from the outside, then go inside router, then get out from the interface here. So here is actually we call going out from FA00. Okay, so the direction here, you are clear, right? What do I mean by go in and go out? So the same thing for FA01. A packet can go from here, go into router, and then go out from through FA01. Okay, now in this case, in these directions here is out because it's going out from FA01. Now another packet can come from here, get inside router 0 through FA01. In this case, this is going into router 0. So here you have another direction called FA01 in. Okay, now I want you to be very clear about this first. So now for every interface, there will be 2 directions. Either you are going inside or you're getting out from the router interface. Is this clear? Because with this thing later, you will decide where to put the interface, which interface to put and at what direction. This is really, really important. Alright, so now that means I have 4 options. Later, as you can see here, the command will do something like this. IP access group. Access group is the command for you to put the ACL. So you see, first thing I have to choose. Do I want to put in INT FA00 here, or do I want to put in INT FA01? So you have to choose one interface. After you choose one of them, you have to choose the direction. See, in or out. Now this one have to be correct. If you put in the wrong directions, then it will not work. So how do I know whether I should write this one is the ACL number 1? Okay, should it be in or should it be out? So I will explain this one to you right now. For you to know this, you have to understand how the packet header looks like when PC0 sends something to PC2. Okay, now I want you to imagine PC0 now send a ping to PC2. He is trying to ping. So you know that the packet is going to go from PC0, go to router 0, and then go through all these routers, and then it goes to PC2 in the end. Right? Okay, now, so when this thing happened, who is sending? Who is sending? PC0. He is the sender. So this is the sender, which means he is the source. Then this is the receiver. So this guy is the destination. Okay. Now when I send something, the packet will travel from here to here to here. Now this thing here, if I take this packet and then I check, I open. So you can think of this like I take an X-ray and then I just try to look, magnify and see what is inside a packet. What you will see is of course a cute packet saying hi back to you. Yeah, I have one video that I made. Next time I show to you. Packet is actually very cute on the inside. But yeah, technically, what you will see is called packet headers. Alright? And in packet headers, what you have is one of the thing is called source IP and destination IP. Now this one have to be in every packet so that the router know how to send, where you want to send, who is sending. Just like if you buy something online, how does this JNT send something to you, or how does FedEx send something to you? They also look at your address. So in the parcel, you have the sender information and the receiver, which is you. So it's the same thing here, source and destination. Okay. Now, so let's say I'm talking about a packet that's going from, now I use PC1. Okay, let's just change to PC0. I don't want you to get confused. Okay, but it's the same thing. So if PC0 going to PC2, the source IP will be PC0 IP. So here is 1.10. Okay, now where I'm going to? I'm going to PC2. So the destination IP will be PC2 IP address is 2.2. So this is the packet. Okay, now another example. Let's say this guy here right now, PC2 get, wait. So PC2 get the data, and now he want to reply to PC0. So now the packet will travel in the opposite directions. From PC2 go to PC0. Okay, now if I take the packet in the middle, and then I try to see the content, you will see the source IP and destination. So in this case, PC2 is actually the source, and PC0 is the destination, because now it's a reply. Okay, so the packet will look like this. The source IP will now be PC2 IP, and the destination IP will be PC0 IP. Change this PC2 to PC0. Okay, now this is the packet header. For you to properly place this ACL, you have to understand this thing first. Why? Because remember I say this ACL, it only understands source IP, which makes the placement of the direction to be very important. Otherwise, it will confuse the routers. So now, how do I place? I have decided at router 0. Now I have two choices. Either I put in FA00 or FA01. So let's say I want to put at FA00. So my choice now, I have decided FA00. So now you have to see here. This ACL here will be placed at this router. Either one of these interface. Correct? Either one of these. So I choose this one. Okay, now if you're clear, then let's see. When a packet go in, so when PC0 send that packet to PC2, the packet will go to here, go here, and then get inside to the router. Correct? Do you see this? Try to see my arrow. It try to go in to the router. So if I place in FA00, this is the correct one. In is correct, because now it is going in, not going out. Now, so right now, after you know this, you will see is in direction, which is why you see here is in. FA00 must be in, cannot put out. So why I say this? Think about this again. This is how your ACL looks like. Okay, wait, let me read. Okay, this is our ACL. The ACL will read permit host and this IP. So if I put in the out directions, then the router get this packet. He will not check this ACL. He don't understand, because this is the source. The source have to come from someone on the internal network. So when you place ACL at FA00, it has to be in, not out. Okay, now if I choose to place this in FA01, okay, then the packet will go like this. Go into the router, go inside router, then go out. Here is going out from the router. So this is out, which means that if you do FA01, you have to put the out directions. So see here, this is out directions. Okay, now I hope you somehow get what I'm trying to do here. When I decide which interface, I mean it can be any, the direction has to be correct. If I do in FA00, the direction is in. If I do in FA01, the direction is out. Because the ACL here, this is all our source IP. So if we want the router to check the source IP only, we have to follow these directions. If you put in the reverse direction, it will not work. Okay, do you get what I mean here? Alright, so this is the placement for ACL. Now, of course, you can try to imagine what happens if I put it in the opposite directions. Let's say I put ACL1 here. Sorry, I put ACL1 in FA00 out. This out here, it can only understand this IP because only source IP. The packet will come from here, correct? Then it can only understand this. But when we write our ACL, we never write in a way that block PC2. We write in a way that block PC0 or block PC1. Okay, so the problem with the wrong direction is that your ACL statement is not designed to detect PC2. It's designed to detect either PC0 or PC1. So the placement and the direction has to be very important and have to be correct lah. Do you get what I mean? Okay. Now if you do get what I mean, or maybe you get half-half, that's still cool. I think it's supposed to be like that until you try more example. So yeah, that is the standard ACL. I will not cover wildcard today because wildcard is a bit much. And then I think I'll show you next week for the wildcard. Okay. Now we have 10 minutes to go. Let me just do this intern with you. Okay. Open your packet tracer. Today I forget to give you a break. I give you a break after the class. You can have 2 days of break. Is that cool? Now let me show you this one here. Cannot be just all theory. We have to try this also. Okay, I'll finish this one, and then after that you can go and then you can enjoy before you go for your midterm. Okay, so now this is exactly the same network that I have here. It's exactly the same thing. So now what I want to do is I want to do okay, I clear the screen first. Then I will show you how I can configure all these things. And I will just show you one example lah. Okay, either blacklist or whitelist. You choose. So what do you want? Do you want to see whitelist or blacklist? Now first thing is, let me write the IP first lah. 192.168.1.10 192.168.1.1 192.168.2.2. So let me know what do you want to see. Before that, let's try to ping. Okay, so you see before I start, all can ping one PC0 can ping to PC2. PC1, let's try PC1. Should be also can ping to PC2 because all routing has been set for you. Okay, now we want to build our ACL now. The same thing, block PC0 cannot go to PC2, allow PC1 to go to PC2. Okay, so the answer is already given. I will just configure this in router 0 for you. So what do you want? Do you want to see whitelist or blacklist? How many people support dark mode here? I think it's quite easy now, right? Once you get the concept. Okay, so again, ACL, you do this on a router. So first thing is create one ACL. So I call this access list 1. Okay, let's say I do a whitelist. So I permit host, and I will permit PC1 IP here, 192.168.1.1, and then I think that's it because you don't have to write deny any. So this is the only thing that you need to write. Okay. Okay. Now after that is placement. So let's say I choose to place this ACL here on FA00. Okay, this is a bit clearer. I put in FA00. It has to be the in directions. Okay. So in this case, I will just go here and the FA0/0 IP access group 1 in exit. Now it should work. For us to check whether you have done ACL properly, you use a show run command. a showrun will show you all the ACL that has been configured. So you see in this interface right now, I have one ACL. ACL number 1 in the in directions. Okay, if you go more, you will see now this is my ACL one. Only allowed one host. Okay. Now, yeah, that is a setting. That is in preference. Go to your preference tab. And then you see this, there is this option called always show port labels. Now if I click, I turn this off, then no more. Make sure you have this one so that you know which port that you're working on. Alright. So this is done. Now if this is correctly, this is really working, then right now we should be able to block lah. So let's try. I ping again. From PC0, I ping to PC2. Now this time it is not supposed to ping, but PC1 can ping. So please, lucky. Okay, now cannot ping. See, destination host unreachable. Okay, now I try with PC1. This one should be able to ping. So ping 2.2. See, PC1 can still ping. Huiyo. Now I want a raise in my salary because I can configure ACL. Okay, now of course, this is what I want to show you today. I hope you get an idea of why we even have to do ACL, and this is how we start with the most basic standard ACL. Okay, now in the next stream, I'll be showing you some more complex example, like how do I block this guy and this guy and this guy, but not that guy and not that guy, using one command only. Then you get even more salary, okay, because you are the rare species now. And after that, I will show you how to configure extended ACL, which means that we will see like, okay, this guy here cannot ping, but he can use the web browser. He can use YouTube or something else in between. Alright? Okay, so yeah, I guess Saturday don't want to be too heavy. This is enough. I see you again in the next stream. Same time, go back to Thursday. Last Thursday no class because they poked me. I still feel a bit weird now. So forgive me if I say something not children friendly. Okay. Yeah, and go for your midterm. Good luck. And see you again next Thursday.